Day one of Bills training camp was all about the offense. They were working red zone scenarios, so it should have been on the offense's advantage, and they certainly took advantage of it. Tons of TDs, great celebrations, all fun and games. Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, they were the stars of the show. Different scenarios here, day two of Bills training camp. Things more even between the offense and defense. Some of the issues for the offense self-inflicted, some of them the defense stepping up, defense making plays. It was a good back and forth, I would say, for the morning here, but it started with Joe Brady. And we're hearing from the Bills' new offensive coordinator for the first time here in training camp. He was just the quarterback's coach this time a year ago. The number one story is, how is the Bills' offense going to look under Joe Brady, and how different is it going to look with Joe Brady having the full year as the OC versus coming in the back end of last season? What were your initial takeaways from Brady today?
Well, something interesting that he pointed out was that this is the time of year that he wants to see his offense make mistakes, because sure, they could go through a whole drill, through a whole practice and do everything perfectly, but he said it's not as valuable for them when they go back to study the tape as when they see some mistakes on there that you can visually correct, and it makes sense. If you're seeing the mistakes that you see on tape, you can be like, hey, that's exactly what I need to do better. So, and we saw some of those mistakes out here on the field, some drops, some fumbles. You mentioned Josh Allen getting pushed into by Deion Dawkins, and he fumbled. Keon Coleman, we've seen now 2 days, a drop here and there in a drill, a dropper, a fumble, however you want to call it, we don't really know, but it was a good play by Taron Johnson to kind of get in there and, we'll say, dislodge the football from Keon Coleman's hands. So just some things here and there that the offense obviously needs to work on. It's only day two of camp, but I think overall you kind of start to see the vision of what Joe Brady wants to do with this offense. From some of the tweaks, you start to see maybe a little bit more of the running game. They're not in full pads, but some more running plays and maybe some of those concepts, what they want to do in the backfield and formation-wise. You start to see a little bit more of that Joe Brady spin on this offense as the days here in training camp start to accumulate.
And it's going to continue to evolve. Let's talk about the number one position we're going to talk about probably daily, and that's wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Keon Coleman was the star, day number one. Two other guys, I think, really rising to the top more than the rest of the group here on day two.
That's right. First off, Curtis Samuel, Ohio State Buckeye, plenty of speed, and he showed it on a nice seam route. Great pass from Josh Allen, kind of rifling it in there in the seam. And we think about the seam almost being something like the tight ends. Dalton Kincaid, we expect him to work a lot down the seam route. It's nice to see them get Curtis Samuel involved in that sort of action. And then Matt Collins, and we've heard plenty of Matt Collins all off season, from his leadership, the energy, doesn't wear any shoes. Well, he was wearing cleats on the field and he was making plenty of catches, and that's good to see because it's that on-field production that at the end of the day is what counts the most, and we expect him to maybe have a role in special teams, and obviously he's going to have a leadership role, but for him to provide something that this Bills offense needs, and I think his value is in the sense of a big physical possession receiver, not a guy who's going to burn you down the field and go catch an 80-yard bomb, but a guy who can win that 7 to 15-yard intermediate route, has the DB on his back, and he can still go up sure-handed and make that catch. What he showed to me today, because he made 2, 3, 4 of those types of catches, I think he'll have value for this Bills offense in that sort of role.
Josh Allen saying yesterday, I can't throw it high enough for Matt Collins. He's always telling me up, 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 and believe me, we can't show some of the video on air because he's a very not safe for work guy on the football field with the language he's choosing to use, but he can really elevate up there. It's pretty good.
And that screams red zone threat. And you feel, let's think about last year real quick. The Bills' offense was a very good offense overall, but when they were in the red zone, you didn't have that guy that you felt like, hey, they're definitely going to target this guy in the red zone. Here's a guy that Josh Allen can just throw it up to, and he's going to go get it. That's very different this year. You feel like the Bills have a few of those guys that they can throw it up to. Keon Coleman, obviously, we saw that on his tape from Florida State. Matt Collins, again, from the comments from Josh Allen, I can't throw it up high enough to him. Dalton Kincaid, maybe a healthy Dawson Knox, So this offense, we talk about the versatility and the speed that they have, the different types of pass-catching weapons in this offense. It feels like that red zone threat is maybe one of those other aspects that's been added to this offense compared to last year.
It is tough to gauge the Bills' running game, the battle of the trenches, when there's no contact.
Yeah.
But I have been impressed with little spurts here I've seen. James Cook had a nice run that Josh Allen chased him 60 yards down the field. They always run out to finish the plays, but it was a nice run there. Ray Davis has shown some burst here. When he finds a little hole, that guy actually has maybe a little more pop and juice to go than maybe you expected. Even Ty Johnson, a little wiggle. We saw him last year. I think it may not look or have the names of a traditional, this is a really good, solid, well-rounded running back group. But I like what I've seen in, again, very limited and understanding what you're watching here in no contact situations from the Bills running backs.
Ray Davis, it's not that like Usain Bolt straight line speed, but the explosiveness to kind of see the hole, take it, and go is something that stood out to me actually also in kind of little light bulb when you said it. Not to compare him in any way to James Cook or to Ty Johnson, if I can speak correctly, but that specific aspect of his game, because we can't measure something Joe Brady talked about. I want to see how they play in pads, offensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs. We can kind of analyze what they do out here, but a lot of that's going to come once they finally get in pads. So you have to analyze the things that you can see without the pads, and explosiveness is one of those things, and that's something that has stood out with Ray Davis, and he's an overall all-around back. He's someone who pass protected at Kentucky, caught the ball out of the backfield at Kentucky. He's a guy who rushed for over 1,000 career yards at 3 different schools. So I think he comes in as a rookie and has a real chance to be a very solid backup to James Cook, again, because of all of the different assets and the word of the day, maybe versatility, the versatility that he has.
It's been the word of the day for years, ever since I've been covering this team under Sean McDermott. Let's go to the defensive side of things. Wide receiver on offense is the main position battle. Safety is on the defensive side of things. We mentioned yesterday it was Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp the majority of the time, even though Sean McDermott had said from the jump of camp, hey, if Mike Edwards was healthy, he would have been the starting safety alongside Taylor Rapp during the spring. Well, lo and behold, who's next to Taylor Rapp? Day 2 of training camp. For the majority of the snaps of the first team, it was Mike Edwards. But Damar Hamlin also not going away.
No, and we even saw Cole Bishop get a snippet of action here and there. I think if we were to power rank the safeties in terms of chances they get the starting bid, I think you put Hamlin's and Edwards' chances above Cole Bishop's at this point, and for understandable reason. He's a rookie, he has to come in and learn this defensive playbook that for years had a starting safety duo of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, 2 incredibly smart players at that position. So it's completely understandable. Mike Edwards came in today, did a solid job. I don't think he stood out in a negative way. I don't think he stood out in an incredibly positive way either. Damar Hamlin, like you said, also got his opportunities, had a sack today. So Hamlin continues to be a guy that gets the opportunities that are given to him and continues to make the most of them, and slowly but surely starts to continue making his case to start. I don't know how you feel about the starting safety position next to Taylor Rapp, because I think both of us assume at this point that Taylor Rapp will be one of the starters. I'm interested to see if you think maybe Hamlin is still in the driver's seat for that second spot.
I would say Edwards is the more likely choice to ultimately, come week 1, be the starter alongside of Taylor Rapp here. It's more of the observations, and I'll even throw a guy like Kaiir Elam, another much maligned guy who people have just varying opinions on because of what they have or have not done, or think that they're just a lightning rod as a talking point to get clicks or whatever it may be. We're noting things about Damar Hamlin and then as well Kaiir Elam based purely upon what we've seen on the field throughout the spring and a day or two here at Bills training camp.
Yes.
Damar Hamlin with a nice pass breakup and getting a lot of run with the first team in day 1. He does not get as much run with the first team, but when he did, he's coming off the edge and sacking Josh Allen. He's in the mix. Yeah. He's probably going to have to really continue to shine regularly, and maybe Mike Edwards can he get up to speed enough, because he has to learn a new defense, and as you said, Damar's been in the defense much longer than anybody else there, so I would handicap it, Taylor Rapp's going to start. I would probably say 65-70% of me believes it's going to be Mike Edwards next to him, but I would give that strong 30% with upside for Damar Hamlin.
Well, and I think something that people have to remember, we're not coming here and just having an agenda of pushing Damar Hamlin to start or whatever. And maybe if all things had been equal, Mike Edwards would have been the guy getting the first team reps on day 1. But he missed a lot of spring, and it's something that Sean McDermott spoke about right before the first practice here at training camp, that he missed a lot of the spring, or else he would be in a position to be getting these first-team reps. So it made sense to put in Damar Hamlin, who has the most experience in this defense, and see what he can do out there. He continues to make plays. Obviously, it's a long training camp, so everyone's going to get their opportunity. But I think he's someone who's firmly in this mix. We'll see Mike Edwards if he can build off this day and continue to show what he showed in Tampa Bay and with Kansas City and kind of play catch-up a little bit, for lack of better words. Then, yes, I think you would put him as the favorite to get that second starting safety spot next to Taylor Rapp.
Just one little note on Kyer. Christian Benford, Russell Douglas, they're the ones that are getting the opportunities to continue to be the Bills starting cornerbacks. But Kyer is getting inserted for either of them at certain points of the practice. So he looks, as of now, and this is what I think they really hope he is, a very, very strong third cornerback, because that is a position that has been ravaged with injuries in the past. And if you can have it, especially since Jamarcus Ingram's the next one in line here, if Kyer can be the really strong, you're comfortable if he has to be thrust into action, I think that's kind of the role he's looking at early. Let's go to the other big story defensively of the day, and that's Von Miller. We're hearing from him after getting 2 days to look at him. You saw him more on Monday, or the first day. I saw him more today. The burst, he says it's back, but he kind of gave us a progress report, because I just wanted to know how different, let's not go a year. Let's go from the last time you played football against the Kansas City Chiefs to where we are today. How physically different do you feel? And it was honestly an answer more about the mental side of saying, hey, I'm just not thinking about the knee anymore, and that's probably critical.
Von Miller, incredibly insightful today in speaking with the media. And there's a lot of different avenues that we can go, because honestly, he had a lot to say. So let's kind of try to package it all together. First off, he does have that burst. Back to what it was 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know. But certainly more than what it was week 8 of last season. Yes, very noticeable. And he actually answered your question first of, you asked him how he felt. He said, I feel as good as I have in 2 years, which I think the 2 years is valuable, because 2 years is before the ACL injury. So he feels as good as he has in this entire recovery process. And he spoke, like you said, about the mental aspect of it. He said, I'm Von Miller. I'm measured in sacks. He had 0 sacks last year. He had 3 tackles. So he went on to say that he had hoped that last year had gone better for him, obviously. But amidst those struggles, he learned to have patience in his recovery process. He also said that he frankly shouldn't have been on the field last year, because his knee just wasn't in a place where movement-wise he was going to be contributing on the field to what he hoped he could be. But even if he was at just 50%, not even Brandon Beane was going to stop him from getting on the field. So it was a valuable insight into just kind of the mindset of Von Miller, because he's always an optimist guy, right? He goes out there and thinks that everything is going to play out as well as it can be. And last season was evidence to the contrary. It went the way that he didn't hope for. It went the way that the fans didn't hope for. It went the way that the team didn't hope for. But now he's back this year. That season is in the past. Whatever he does this year can't change that. But he's in a better place health-wise, and now he's not thinking about that knee. I followed up and asked him a question later on, and he responded that I'm normal now. I feel like a normal player out there at practice. I'm not thinking about someone running into that knee, and it makes me grateful for what I'm able to do on the football field. So I think having a player of Von Miller's experience, of his caliber, in that mindset and not thinking about his injury makes for a player that can produce at a much higher level this year.
Much like the action on the field, you kind of have to figure out how to decipher everything that you hear from Von Miller, because he's always going to be positive. That's what's made him a first ballot future Hall of Famer. That's what's made him one of the greatest pass rushers of his generation. He could say he feels great, like he feels normal. He was saying he felt pretty great and everything was normal a year ago, and he is admitting now that wasn't truthful, whether he was lying to himself or just trying to play coy a bit there. I think expectations should never be he's going to be Von Miller year one pre-knee injury of being with the Buffalo Bills. But they really need him, because A.J. Epinesa, he's not a game changer. Greg Rousseau is not a game changer. I don't think Von Miller is a game changer anymore, but maybe more of a collective approach. If you can get guys that are in the 8 to 10 sack range, if you get 8 to 10 sacks out of Von Miller post-knee injury at this age, you talk about a serious home run for this defense. And again, if they don't get something like that, I don't know who they're going to get it from.
That's right. And you talk about we might not see the Von Miller from a few years ago. The Bills might not use him in that capacity. You know, he's not going to play as many downs, we don't think, as he used to play when he was Von Miller. But you expect maybe A.J. Epinesa and Greg Rousseau to sort of carry the load, but the Bills do a lot of rotation on that defensive line. On that note, we saw DeJuan Smoot even get a few first-team reps on that defensive line. We'll touch on that again in a sec because I want to address that. But so Von Miller might not be in a situation where he's putting his body through as many things as he had in the past. So if he's a pass rush specialist, almost the equivalent of a three-point specialist in basketball, and just situationally you put him in and he's able to kind of keep that burst throughout a whole game, you expect that production to sort of be there, you know, not maybe 10 sacks, but can he get you 6.5, 7? A.J. Epinesa, I think, had 6.5 sacks last year. That's a season that you would totally take from Von Miller at this point, and whatever that contract status is, whatever they decide from him in 2025, for 2024, you would take that sort of season from Von Miller, and I think Von Miller would take it from himself as well.
Yeah, A.J. Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, they're probably your starters, standard base. That's what you're going to get. How they use Von Miller, we'll wait and see. But DeJuan Smoot, I agree. He's either if in the second wave with Von Miller, or he's 3 or 4 in that pecking order. And much like the cornerback position, when you go over Sewell Douglas, Christian Benford, Kyer Elam, I don't know. I don't really know where you're going to go and feel good about it beyond that.
No, because, I mean, they signed Casey Tuhill in the offseason. They have Kingsley Jonathan, who they like. You know, he made the team last year and stuff like that. So maybe it is a battle for that number 4 edge rusher after Von Miller. I think it's DeJuan Smoot, though. Smoot had a productive career in Jacksonville. Like we said, we saw him kind of mixing in a little bit and getting some of those first team reps. He was also mixing in with some of the other teams, though, so you can't make too much of it. But just from what I see from him physically and knowing the experience that he brings to the table, it would surprise me if he's not kind of that number 4 on the depth chart after Rousseau, Epinesa, and Von Miller.
Defense will probably be the bigger talking point tomorrow as training camp wraps up their first little 3-day pod here at St. John Fisher. New defensive coordinator Bobby Babich is set to speak before practice, and we'll bring that for you on WGRZ platforms, TV, and everything you want. Also, don't forget, opening ceremonies of the Olympics are on Friday as well. We're company men, so make sure you watch it on Channel 2 and NBC. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.